At the end of the last section, we wrapped our two button tags with a span. Let's replace the span and go back to an array, and then make sure that we put a comma between our two buttons. Let's save, add some text, and the CSS looks much better this way than wrapping with the span tag. All right, so we have our save button and our undo button. Neither of them do anything right now, so let's go ahead and hook them up. Let's start with the undo button. We're going to reformat here just a little bit so that we can add in more easily a click event handler. So we'll say this dot handle undo click, and then we'll add in our event handler, handle undo click. Now again, the purpose of our undo button here is so that the user can enter some text, and then if they decide they don't like the changes that they made, they can click the undo button and it'll revert back to the way it looked before when the to-do first loaded. So doing this is actually a lot more easier than you might think. All we have to do is say this dot set state, and then we're going to set our text to what it originally was, which is this dot props dot item dot text, and then we're also going to want our undo button to go away, so we'll flip our text change flag from true to false. Let's put in our semicolon, save, and then we're ready for a test. I am going to add some text here, and then I'm going to decide, you know what, I don't like this, how I've edited this to do. We'll undo, and fantastic. It reverts to the way it was before, and our two buttons just disappeared. Great. Next, we'll tackle our save button. So in a similar fashion, we'll reformat our save here just a little bit, just to make it a little bit more legible, and then put in our on-click handler. So this dot handle save click, and then we will handle save click function. Don't forget the comma. And in this case, we're going to use our Firebase object again in the same way that we did previously when we updated our done state. Just instead of editing the done state, we're going to update our text. So we will say this.fb.update, and our new text is this.state.text. Remember, the thing to keep in mind here is that this.state.text is the new text, the edits. It's what we've changed about the text that's in here. If we want to talk about what the to-do is currently, or what's saved on Firebase, we would look at this.props.text. So this.fb.update is going to update our text over on Firebase, but then we still want to show or hide the buttons that appear when you edit the text. So we'll say this set state text changed false. I'm hoping that as we're going through some of these, adding some of these features, you start to get a sense of how this is some really repetitious code that we're doing here when we're editing or saving or creating items. As long as we plug everything up or hook everything up to state correctly, adding these operations is really a breeze. So let's save this and test our save. So I'm going to update this to take the trash out, and we'll save. The buttons go away, and we'll check over on Firebase, and it says take the trash out. Fantastic. Now let's add one more little item while we're here working on our line items, and we're going to say that whenever a user checks the checkbox, we want this entire to-do to be grayed out. We want it to say, you know what, this is done, you don't need to worry about this one anymore, focus on the to-dos that you still have to do. In addition to graying it out, we also want to completely disable the text input. So when it's done, the user shouldn't be able to edit the text anymore. So we can kind of treat it as like an archive or a record of the things that we've completed. So doing both graying it out and disabling the input is actually very straightforward. We're going to use some default Bootstrap CSS that's going to take care of it for us. All we have to do is add the disabled attribute to the input, to the text input, when the to-do is done. So in our render function, we'll find our text input, and then we're just going to say this is disabled whenever this.state.done. So what's happening here is we're just saying if done is true, disabled should be, this element should be disabled. So we'll save this and give it a shot. And awesome. So when it appears on the page, the input is disabled. See, I can't click in here, and it is grayed out as well. Just to distinguish, we'll say, we'll add another to-do here. We'll say cook dinner and add it, and then we can change this one as well. Cool. So just one last item before we're done. We're going to add a button at the bottom to clear out our done to-dos.